Alright, we're back on. We're back on! Oh, I swear I'll get a nicer web camera later, but that's not important. Let me just put this a little bit more closer. Um, there's too... there's too much shit to talk about. There's way too much to talk about. I've been writing down some memorandums of my own understanding regarding the civilizational supposed best country jazz hands that would be us. And yes, there's going to be a lot of weird quips and quirks that I'm going to be saying stupid things, of course. But regardless, my heart is in the right place, at least according to my understanding or belief, and I'm not going to doubt that, and I'm not going to doubt that if other people tell me otherwise. So, yeah, I've been writing, I've been taking the receipt notes of what's been going on, and I'm like, damn, that's a lot of shit. And we're talking about, obviously, this administration of great utter proportions of terrible consequence. So under the civilizational faction of, well, at least what I think that I represent via the American people, not that I actually truly represent the American people. So basically, I'm going to read this from the top. So this administration has, and I didn't even write down the most semi-recent things, and there's been a lot even more developments afterwards. So number one, according to this, fraud in American taxpayer money via no-bid contracts or self-loathing of monetary investment regarding this administration. It is very imperative that that this fucking and I'm gonna use a lot of vulgar language because I'm just a general civilian, but bear with me on that. So this whole nonsense about, you know, fraud in America taxpayers, and that supposedly the whole propaganded argument, and I know that's not a word, but I'm going to use it anyway. There's a lot of words I'm just going to make up out of my ass. But, so you're telling me that the majority of people thought, you know, I work hard, I have like a decent amount of money, I'm healthy generally, I don't have anything wrong going with my life. But then I come into question, why do we have a government when I already don't need anything? And like, what am I benefiting for? And then it comes to the question of then why the fuck do I pay taxes? You know, it's kind of a very selfish, ironic thing that I think, and this is just a prediction, I'm not assuming, but I'm going to generally, like, you know, with a grain of salt. But what I'm getting at is that what I'm getting at the feeling of, if people actually thought that this was an argument from the Trump administration that was valid, it kind of isn't. Because, you know, why do we pay taxes for? Yeah, why do we drive on roads? Why do we have, you know, general subsidies when the call needs it? So, for instance, the fact that they're saying that no healthcare, no none of this because, you know, the immigrants and the other countries get our taxpayer money for that reason, and we don't. Who said that we don't? You know, we could vote for it. We can vote for the people who are going to do the things that we want. Is it really that hard to understand that? But it gets very nuanced because at that point, you know, you vote for someone who's gonna fight for you. Maybe you'll get the healthcare. You know, and maybe you'll, you know, but it doesn't happen, or other people kind of like vote for someone else, and then that person kind of doesn't really do it the way you want it to. But this is gonna really be hard. I think my brain has already gone everywhere. Again, I'm barely new at this, so, you know, usually when I think about shit, I think about like on and on and on kind of thing, but can't really make too much cohesion. But I'm working on it. I might have to cut here. It's really hard to try and explain it. I'm not one to explain. I'm just one to know, but not one to really explain. But I'm still gonna try. But basically to say that, sure, yeah, there's a bunch of immigrants and they get everything and we don't get shit and I've been working my ass off. You would think, oh yeah, I should be probably thousands and thousands of dollars richer by now, but still isn't, and barely making minimum wage or somewhere else around there. So, it's just like, it's, yeah. But here's the thing. So we still don't have affordable healthcare at the moment. We have ridiculous healthcare premiums right now, I think. And again, I'm not any expert or anything, but this is a generalization. I have referenced it from many different places with my general knowledge and my general review of many sources out there. So I'm going to go with the flow on that. And, sure, a hardworking average American would question the government. Why the hell do I even care about the government if I don't get anything? But these people, looks over here to the immigrants or some other country, they get everything and I don't get shit. How is that fair? I mean, you're good, aren't you? You don't need anything, don't you? Why, And even then, you're still paying taxes. And you still drive on, roads, and you pay state municipal taxes. You have the water, that's important. You won't have trash pickup. You would not have proper drainage. You would not have water and services and public roads if it were not for taxes, both state, municipal, and of course, federal, whatever government taxes. We need that. We've been taking this world too much for granted. We have, environmental protection. We have, all those things. And we just don't think about it. We just think like, oh yeah, that's already a given. Like, that's just nonsense. But no, we still have to pay for that shit. And that's the reason why we have it. That's why we have affordable healthcare. That's why we had all these other things. Because of said taxes. But, this... the concept of a civilization is really gone to hell in this country. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ. Oh boy, but yeah, and it's just like, what if, for a theoretical, one day, you're a hardworking American and you just suddenly got cancer, or your mother or someone you really cared about just got cancer. Is your mentality just like, oh, it doesn't fucking matter. I'm just going to be a hardworking American and I can afford the cancer treatment? But what if you kind of don't, because we don't have free healthcare? Or in a sense, I know free healthcare is more like a hot term issue and a hot button thing for politicians to sell their voters. But in reality, it's more like affordable healthcare, like really affordable. And some of it could be free, but it depends on what we're talking about. Then again, I'm not a medical, person or anything to know what the prices are, or an economic person, but what I generally do know is that there's a lot of off-branded medicine that is literally pennies on the dollar versus all this name brand shit that basically they're charging, and looks at Big Pharma. Yes, Big Pharma. So, charging us the premiums for the name brands when there's obviously a lot of free and most, if not equally effective brands that are literally pennies on the dollar. So, there's that. But, aside from the stupid facing, it's true. It's stupid, and they're charging, what was it, our government, our taxpayer? So it's basically, in a sense, fraud. Why aren't we just getting generic, medicine? Why aren't we, it's, and I would agree with most other sub-politicians, whoever they may be, it's like other countries, it's cheap as fuck. Yeah, I know. The argument's cheap as fuck. Hell, I think even, Mr. Trump even said that as well. But did we do anything? No. I mean, technically, they don't really reference it anymore, which is kind of funny. There is the weird Trump RX stuff, but it's like, why is it named after him? And more importantly, it's not, I haven't done my research. No one's really talking about it. I could be wrong. The internet's fast. I'm sure some people have been talking about it. But I wonder if they ever expanded the medical care there, because I don't think they did. And here's the other thing. I don't think I did too much inverse research. I don't know if any of those proceeds go to Trump's direct butthole account. This is a joke. But you know what I mean. Basically, a personal account, which again is an unlawful principle. I would assume that presidents enrich themselves while in power. Um, yeah, and I agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and to some extension, which I think was referenced like yesterday or 2 days ago, saying that it doesn't matter if you're a billionaire or running businesses and stuff. You're still a public servant, which is basically we're trying to work together, regardless of political affiliation. Even though, yeah, a lot of people can be very, gobsmacking and very rude, but we're in this together, god damn it. If we can't be doing that, then I suppose, as the saying goes, we don't have a country anymore if Republicans and Democrats don't get it to fucking together. But that's a discussion for another day. That's a giant ass rabbit hole that I have many questions about the principles of what's going on politically at the moment. But I'll leave it at that. But yeah, like I said, I can't really keep on one topic, but I'm just going to keep going on. I'm just going to keep going. Like, fuck it, we're live. I mean, it's a recording, but I'm going to say it's live. But yeah, it's just, if one of your family members had cancer and you're like, well, I'm a hardworking person, but then it ends up you're short, or things by the acts of God or whatever you want to say just happen. You just get shit on. You get in a car crash. The person was uninsured, so on and so forth. Theoretically, are you going to be able to afford it now? But guess what? There's no free healthcare, or in a sense, affordable healthcare. I just feel like saying free healthcare is kind of like a benign thing, because it's like, you mean to say affordable. Like, it can't necessarily be free. I mean, it depends. I would assume, and also probably you would want it to probably be free for people who have very, very, very low income, but literally pennies on the dollar for most cases on off-brand medicine and things like the sort that aren't trademarked. But yeah, so you would like affordable healthcare. You would like to afford that cancer treatment. You would. I mean, who wouldn't? Unless, character in question regarding whether or not they're unwell or not, to not actually, fix the cancer of their loved one or the one they care about, or themselves if they had it. Even though at one point they were a hardworking American that was fine until they weren't. But now we don't have healthcare because the argument was it's either too expensive according to this administration, or the latter, or just say it's the immigrants sucking it up all dry, and that there's no way it can happen. Absolutely no way, because the economy will explode on itself. And what I mean by explode on itself, the translation to that is probably it's because a bunch of whiny bourgeois will not get another 3,700 homes and yachts, and so therefore they'll probably just suicide our country economically to get what they want. So, just a thought, because it can happen. I mean, they're the ones who are financially responsible. But, and then that makes me want to go into the other rabbit hole immediately as soon as I mentioned the concept of rich. The overly rich who are corrupt and bad. There is some good rich people out there, but I'm pretty sure that's a rarity these days, unfortunately. Most of them who do try to do that is either to save face, or because there's things we don't know about them yet, or because we just don't know about them at all, because there's so much shit going on in the world every single day. But anyway, with that being said, I think I'm just going to go to that one. But no, I'm going to go try to do the bullet points as much as I want to go into other rabbit holes, because boy, do I go on. The second thing is starting endless wars and not using proper strategy and the proper channels of people who know what they're doing to end them with peace. War, and we know the war we're talking about. We're talking about the one with the I and the Ran. But, I feel for the people of Iran that this is just utter bullshit. It kind of is. It kind of is. I mean, the way I see the world when it comes to any country, even if it's quote-unquote thy enemy, the thing is, the only real enemy is the governmental prospects. And I feel like people who may or may not have fallen into the propaganda, but that's just me, in my opinion, on my subject of the matter. But, you know, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure every fucking civilization in this entire tiny, minuscule planet that we call Earth wants to just fucking live and live without the bloodshed, the rape, etc. You get the idea. All the terrible things that obviously happens on a daily basis. If not in this country, if not anywhere else in the world, happens pretty much every second. Even as I'm recording this, I'm sure that's happening a lot, which is very unfortunate. It's not going to end yet. But who knows when it ever will. But who is to say we can't try? But yeah. So, you know, enemy of thy other, I think mostly pertains to the government or the people in question, depending on who you ask on an opinion. Because I'm pretty sure people at the end of the day within those governments, they just want to live, man. And that's probably another reason why they resort into fear-mongering and then start getting sucked up into their country's propaganda and say, like, yeah, I hate that other country, but, like, you know, I wonder, do we really hate the entirety of a people in anyone's country, or is it just despise those who have been very much relentless and very much abusive of their people, that they never make their civilization any better for the people? Instead, that's why they use this propaganda system. Of course, America is also very much I'm guilty of that too throughout its years, especially as of right now in this current administration, I will have to add. It's all to save face. But yeah, you know, this Trump administration, we already know. He literally said it. No ending endless wars and yada yada Joe Biden and maybe yada yada Biden or whatever the fuck. Specifically those two for whatever reason, but I assume it's because, you know, after 2016 and before 2020 because he lost. So obviously the only two people who ever always call out are those two specific people. It's not like he's calling out any other Democratic Party before that any of that time for some reason. But whatever. I'm not a history buff either, so maybe that's the only reason why he just focused on those two. But yeah, like he literally lied. Like he literally lied. Like there's no I'm not gonna start endless wars and then I'm going to endless wars. Yeah. But you know, peace can not always be achieved with war, and sometimes war cannot ever be achieved with peace, and vice versa. You know, we have the old sayings around here that the pen is mightier than the sword. But I understand that war these days, I think people have lost what the intent was. Especially this administration. I don't think war was meant to bully someone into submission. I don't think war was meant for senseless killing or economical gain or anything else. War was meant as a last-minute correlation to save one's people of one's country in a defensive and righteous way. I don't think it was meant to go in there and just kill. And again, especially if it's innocent civilians and not the people in question, which in most cases we usually end up targeting things like military constructs and other form of government to be assassinated. And I assume that's the same pretty much everywhere else. For every other country, I wouldn't doubt. Could be wrong, but quote me if you want to. I'm open to technical discussion if I can. Again, new to many of this, so again, my knowledge is just, you know, I'm like, you know, tiny cracker brain barrel over here of brain cells to the situation. Other than my concerns, which I fully am aware of and have a lot of brain cells for. I don't know why I'm referencing brain cells, but anyway. But yeah. Anyway, that's all I have to say about that, is that this president has just been very generally just saying very hypocritical. And still starting wars, baby. Drill, baby, drill is not going to help you because, again, we don't sell it to ourselves. We sell it to other people. Just so you know. That oil price is going to stay there for a while. Will it get any higher? again, not an economist. It probably will get a bit higher. Depends how the market feels, I guess. But I think it's just going to stay like at $4 or $5 for a long ass time. Depends on what happens. Of course, it's not really good to know that even Russia's oil depots are being struck and stuff, because like Russia has a lot of oil too. So, and then China kind of doesn't have anything. So when you really put that together, I don't think we're going to have any oil left if people are going to keep on using oil as a means and an ends to war propaganda and war geopolitics, because then that means no one's going to have any fucking oil, which means, oh boy, we're going to be in trouble in the energy sector eventually regarding transportational vehicles. So do keep that in mind. But that, again, all of this is just my opinion. So, don't take this as financial advice or anything, but I'm just saying, it makes sense to me. Just thought you would like to know that. Anyway, bullet point number 3. His party never released the Epstein files when it was due, which was like on February or March or something last year, or earlier this year. And nothing. Where is it? And I remember that. I recall. I don't know if I have. I don't think I'm going to play clips because I don't know how. Political copyright. I don't even know why politicalization would be copyrighted, because this is public servants to the people. They have a right to know things, but I don't know. But, I remember that, the first clip when this became barely the central talking point of being viral. I remember when a single reporter asked him, hey, what about the Epstein files? When they were like, oh, we're going to transparent everything regarding JFK shooting, et cetera, or whatever they said. And I remember where Trump was just like, there's nothing in the Epstein files. Go home, everyone. Don't look under the rug where I swept all the information. And then I remember, like, either the day before or the day after, and then, like, I remember when they were in the White House, a single reporter was like, hey, what about the Epstein files? Like, and he's like, oh, people are still talking about that? Like, he was like, oh, shit. Like, you could tell that he was actually very. I never seen him that way, by the way. He was just like, oh, why are people still talking about that? Like, I've never heard him say that. Like, and it's already been several years for the current second term. It's already been 2 other years since then. So it's like, and then I've watched him since 2016. Like, he's never responded that way to a reporter's question. So that there's something up with that. I mean, I'm not a body language expert either, but like I've been paying attention though, and I seen him like he was shitting bricks. Like, oh god, like why are people still asking me about that? Like, stop asking me. And funny enough, as of today, still nothing about the Epstein files. It's I never really doubted that we live in a world where there's a bunch of rich oligarchs, I guess, or however you want to call it, because that's the new term now. Rich oligarchs are basically rich, corrupt, powerful people. So, with that being the said case in point, I'm not surprised that there's a sexual, thing going on with a bunch of people who can get away with stuff because via money. So, it's not surprising to me that it's finally come to fruition that that's actually a true thing, because I always had a feeling, because it's like, when you really think about it, these people are rich, they usually have their way, this country has been fucked by these people for years, we've only been fighting for what we have as we have it now, whether or not to take it for granted, because apparently now our democracy is on the line again, from the same type of people, rich bastards. So here we go again. With the same nonsense, yet again, to know that, Industrial Revolution, all that, that's why we had health and safety regulations, that's why we had all these things, that's why we had paid leave, that's how we got unionization for workforce and higher wage, because the people demanded it. It happened. Do you not It happened! I know you probably already know, at least for some of the people I know who are going to be watching, but, it fucking happened. And it was because of us. Otherwise, that would have never happened. Children in America would still be working right now. our hands and feet would probably be sawed off by dangerous factory jobs, and we'll still probably go on like it was normal. Like, oh, I lost an arm, it's fine. I might be bleeding out, but there's no health care, and I don't get paid health care from, you know, this wonderful giant industry that's very successful and rich that I work in, because then I'll lose my job. It's the same shit as of today, isn't it? Except now it's kind of like with the concept of AI and shit. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ. How do not people see the relative signs to happen again? It's just a different form. It's still the same shit. You know, this country is only great because we keep fighting for it to be great. At any point that we think that it's great enough that we shouldn't do anything is when we have a problem. But it doesn't help either when we have a crazy administration to say, yeah, get rid of all the things that made our country great, our democracy, our due process, our rules of laws, regulations of the people, and also distrust within the people even more so, which is not very good for a government that has a two-party system to start ostracizing a specific side as the one who created all the problems. Because we're in this fucking together, whether you like it or not, the American people and the politicians. Because otherwise, death will be everywhere before you know it. But whatever. Anyway, to the point being, it's nonsense. But, again, sorry, go into relative tangents many times. Like, there's just too much to go on for me. But I'm just going to move to the next bullet point, even though I wasn't technically on topic. I just like to go on, basically. Using ICE agents to, I guess, terrorize immigrants without due process of, terrorize is probably too of a light term. Perhaps more of a antagonizingly kill or want harm. Who knows? But this is just merely an opinion. Anywho, due process of law, and also have cured Americans in the crossfire who were protesting against the principle. Yeah, that's terrible. Again, this administration has hell-bent at us saying that all the crime was due to them. I'm looking this with an objective lens. I would assume, yes, a few of them, not all of them. Then again, this administration never really explained exactly how much. All they kept saying was immigrant bad, without a specification of how much in a spectrum. They're just saying, no, they have tons of immigrants and they're all bad. Or just don't specify and just say, immigrant bad. Fear-mongering statement, and no explanation. Now, I'm not going to lie that probably some of them have in fact done very legalized things regarding drugs or something. But also at the same time, I'm pretty sure a good chunk of them really wanted to be a hardworking American who paid their taxes, got substantial government help from taxpayers such as us to bring them off their feet and welcome them with open arms. But that's not really what this administration is trying to sell us, unfortunately. But I digress. And not to mention, most of them have possibly been hurt, injured, killed, and basically, I'm pretty sure been given cruel and unusual punishment. To an extension. So, you know, it's like, I understand. Illegal means you broke the law, I guess. But remember, we still have a due process of law. We still need the process of law to confirm innocence from the demonization or the actual character that someone's actually bad. So this administration wanted to skip the entire process, and they did. There's no more due process for these people. And it's disgusting. And yet we call ourselves the land of the free. Not sure that's basically what this is in context of, but even so, like, it's not just the free, but more importantly, the due process of law being the more thing in question, of course. Although, to be fair, I don't think we're the land of the free. I mean, for Christ's sake, we're not as independent as we used to be back in the day when everything was homesteading and we would live off the land without having to buy an iPad or something. Look, I understand. I know the people of old who understand that type of lifestyle. I even watch a few people on the internet who are homesteaders and stuff. I understand what they're getting at. But, you know, that's just the world today. But, yeah, so, yeah, the fact that ICE, without due process of law, because of this administration, it's just terrible. Also, my other general complaint is regarding the civilizational order of America, is that the administration of this current administration cannot apparently usually answer yes or no questions, and without usually using PR bullshit in between. So they're like, hey, have you committed this crime that's very oblivious here? And then their answer is like, did you check with the previous administration who allowed that to happen anyway? Instead of answering yes or no, it's like, no, did you do that or not? And it's like, you can't answer that. Did you realize that the stock market's very great? Like, come on. I'm like, you can't be that stupid, America, clearly, right? I believe in you. I believe in us. You know, you can't tell me that, you know, even though, you know, sure, opposition is the enemy, question mark, but it's not. We have a two-party system. That's the only party we got. This is the type of main belief that basically this entire country is based on. And, you know, you got to understand that the reason why we have checks and balances was for a reason. So that's why we have Republicans via Democrats questioning the legality and the authority of these people that are overstepping their bounds, clearly. I'm sure they are. So, of course, it's weird that they're the ones who are supposed to ask the questions to them, and then they just either get responded with questions from them to them, or just don't answer the question, or just say, oh, it was Biden's fault. It's unacceptable that even they can't answer the damn question. I mean, you can't just tell me you're going to sit there and just accept, like, oh, yeah, this is all just nonsense, and who cares about what the senators say or Congress says, or et cetera, et cetera. That's an important dew point that I question immensely. Oh boy, what was this one again? Oh yes, the tariffs. The tariff the world, in which in turn costed Americans and consumers, and not only us, everyone else too, by the way, got affected by Trump's tariffs in such a way with high costs from consumer goods. And to add on insult to injury, then they did a program that allowed these people to refund their money and not ours, of which we usually were passed on the cost to. What the fuck? Like, talk about double dipping standard. Not only that we paid all the money, that was increased costs because we know that capitalism never wants to pay it forward. So his tariffs basically failed. We paid for a lot of consumer goods, technology, etc., for all going up because of the aluminum and the other shit tariffs from earlier in the year. And basically, and then for another FU on top of that to the American people and also other people abroad who were consumers in the other respectful countries, got to have refunds on top of that and not the consumers. Whether or not we have the receipts or not, which I know I do. I got tariffed on this wonderful compute over here because of the increased aluminum prices, the MSRP of my FinStack aluminum heatsink went up, the water liquid cooled one with air, and also my what was the other thing? Oh yeah, my graphics card, and that was from all the chip tariffs later thereon within the year. So basically, not MSRP at all. And it was due to his tariffs. I don't get anything back. No one else does either. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. I don't know what the Supreme Court is doing on that regard. And yes, I would actually reference the Supreme Court. But, yeah. But again, mostly an opinion of critique. Oh, that one was actually the same. Oh, wait. Oh, this one's kind of the same? Oh, yes. Ah, yes. Demand that other countries that apparently sucked the U.S. goods, or not goods, but the U.S. economy dry, and also got rid of NATO and the association with NATO. And basically what Trump did is that he told every other neighboring country, fuck you for not paying your fair share. Which doesn't make sense, considering the propaganda of America is, we are the best. And you would think, oh, if we already are the best, and sure, he can argue that this is about Biden, that's why it wasn't the best, so we need to make it back the best. But the thing was, even previous Republican administrations did nothing about NATO. They didn't, I don't think, they said, oh yeah, we need to get rid of NATO in order to be good again. They never said that. So even if he wants to reference Biden and stuff, I'm pretty sure President Bush didn't do that either. Because I'm pretty sure that war, what was it, Afghanistan or whatever, Iraq, other people definitely helped out with their soldiers and stuff. Not that I have another pin on that war, which very similar to this one, but at least we had help. So I don't know what he's going about saying that they haven't done shit for us, especially when it was necessary. Even though it kind of wasn't, but that's, again, my opinion. But, yeah. Basically, for general example, just imagine, I'm a good neighbor. My neighbor is like, I don't know, like Europe. And I'm like, hey man, I brought you some beers, Alliance, here's some money, or here's some form of economic establishment that helps you out, here's beer, and it's like, oh, thanks, and, have a beer, we have a talk or whatever, and then, we're friends, I guess. And then walk in with some other administration later and be like, hey, you fucking owe me like several packs of beer. You cheating bastard country. Give me several cases of beer back. Truckloads, buttloads, because you owe us a shit ton. What kind of neighbor does that? Do you think that's being a good neighbor, to be like, hey, here's a beer, but you fucking owe me several cans of beer later? You cheap bastard, you owe me big time. That's basically what Donald Trump is saying to NATOing countries and neighboring countries who are our allies, is basically fucking pay up. And of course, the tariffs didn't help with that situation either. And basically, that's what he said, is that they're ripping us off. I'm like, I don't think that's how alliances work. Alliances is akin to friendship. Are you just going to, it's like, for instance, your friend is like, oh God, I need like a medical surgery bill payment or something, and it's like, it's life-threatening, and you're like, yeah, sure, man, I'll just give you like $300, you can pay for it. And then imagine the mentality of like, where's my fucking $3,000, bitch? The next day after he just paid for it and then survived. Like, what kind of person is that? Is that really friendship? Is that really how alliances should work under the connotation of this administration, to immediately demonize our friends and our allies? That they owe us all of that. And more. I don't know what the hell our congressional people are doing. Or the Supreme Court. I'm just very, like, you literally can't phrase it in a more simplistic way. It's that fucking stupid. And unacceptable, for that matter. Oh, and the last but not least, Oh yes. Oh yeah. And the other thing I have a general complaint about is that this administration usually lies when it comes to fraud or fake news and using the DOJ to sue people. But of course, using those lawsuits usually dropping and they never follow up with that. You know, when they're all like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go after you," and we have the proof. We never seen it. They never showed us the files or the files of motioning. Or again, not much of a legal expert, but basically the proof in the pudding, which is basically the entire court documents after it's been served and after it's been resolutioned. They never really showed us that, and they won only like a few of them, but out of the hundreds and hundreds of others they already filed through other means of lawsuits, they never had any standing. They got dropped in courts, but they're not going to talk about it. So when they go over there like a tough guy and be like, "We're gonna sue you," and then they don't even follow through. Like, what the hell? It's like, come on. It's like, they never follow through with it. They don't. They say they're gonna sue people, and then they don't follow through because they don't have any standing. They just do that to shut people up and to scare them with legal fees and correlation. And you know, the other thing, I have a critique about the American ruling system of judgment and fairness, especially when it comes to the rule of law, is like, fees are a thing. And boy, imagine having this situation happen where someone who is majorly powerful, who's obviously not well and very much against the Constitution and the correlational rules of law, which he's already been very much well appointed by abusing and basically breaking, for that matter, is just doing whatever the heck he wants, which is amazing. In the most terrible way possible. And we don't even have a rule for that either. But, I don't know. I don't know what I'm getting at on that, but yeah, basically. But basically, at the end of the day, I do want to say, this is probably going to be a video that I won't post. Well, I mean, I'm going to post this now, but I probably will make another post until other developments come out later. In the coming last 2 years, because boy, the climax is coming, and the people are very much going to have much bloodshed and consequences depending on how this goes. I do worry for everyone, but I do feel that this might be the climax of the wonderful ending bouquet of a wonderful theatrical experience, which is reality, unfortunately. But yeah, I think it's not going to be a very easy next coming of months. I think a lot of shit's going to happen, and I will have to say, I truly do hope everyone the best, and that you all stay safe out there, and keep an eye out, because I feel as if the time will be coming soon. But I will end off with one more saying, and that is, the government needs to adhere to the people, not the other way around. When the people are concerned, when they are not happy with the current administration, they have the right to demand answers from their government with the truth and nothing, of course, by the truth, the transparency, and the required proof of the required branches or any body of government of such truth and transparency, and with the receipt in hand to show everyone, and by God, may it be plastered all over the quote-unquote fake news so that we know what is actually going on. Because that is something I definitely demand under the connotations of our civilization, is that there is so much hearsay in this day and age from presidents opening, well, I guess in a sense, yeah, presidents opening their mouths and never showing the proof. They're just saying stuff. It's like, oh yeah, we apprehended several thousand cocaine smugglers. Would you believe it? You probably would. But you won't ever get to see it. You know, it's like, this is like a good faith principle at this point. It's like, I can't believe anything anyone says in the government anymore without adherent proof. And boy, do I really appreciate independent news and media, specifically the independent kind. You know, I used to look at PBS, but like, I agree with people like it was like Tyler Breyer Cohen, is that the media is basically just turned into a little bit of a circus where it's basically they're just normalizing this shit, and it's like, why? Where's the nuance? Where is the... But I know why. The reason why... It's not as to say that most news and media is fake. Maybe some of it could be. There's always an asterisk to everything in the world. But I think it's more of the fact that, you know, when you think about it, it's a business. News is now just treated as a business. It's not about the truth anymore. I feel it's more about the benefactors of just, you only have 1 hour to be on air. As much as we would like to tell the people about what's actually going on, we won't have enough time. And then you really realize that there's a lot of shit that happens, not only just here, but abroad, the entire earth, in many different countries. News does not have time to tell the American people what's going on. So, honestly, you know, I appreciate and I throw my hat to the independent news and media that do the hard work. Because I don't think most main channel news does this anymore. They really don't. And sure, they'll generally talk about it, maybe just have an expert come on or two, but it's only for such long. And it's not enough to really get through everything. I feel like one of the other things I want this country to do is definitely have a 24 hours free and accessible news media with maybe even a provided antenna television or something, even though it might be a bit small, to let people know what's going on as much as possible and with the proof and all. And maybe even in several languages for that matter would be nice. Or at least Spanish. I assume most people here are English or Spanish. To let people know what the hell's going on. Because I feel like PBS, as much as I appreciated them for what they are, and I know their history kind of a bit and what they've done back in the past with, you know, the shooting of JFK and stuff. Yeah, so... But, like, there needs to be more. And not only that, but of course there needs to be a lot more to be fixed in this country. It's not over yet. Although, to be fair, this country was never over from its fight against rich oligarchs, corrupt political people in power. It's still here. There was never a time that was great in this country, and it was only great because we triumphed. But I think the other reason why I stereotypically believe things only got better after World War II was because, well, when you think about it, it's like we went through hell. We fought for a good reason, because we were defending ourselves, and we won. And we celebrated for perhaps too long, and thought, surely nothing worse will come ever again. And lo and behold, here we are again, with another similar issue regarding rich, oligarchical, corrupt politicianal factions against the American people. The world has not changed. The world remains the same if you want to keep the democracy, and I think this is already a saying from a great president or someone, if I'm not mistaken, which is weird. But I agree with the sentiment. If you want to keep a democracy, you gotta fucking fight for it. And that includes the people, not just the experts. You know, we might not know much. We might, you know, even I myself don't really know much. Well, I want to say I want to know things perceptively because I understand. I like to think I understand morality and humanity. Even though I'm not an expert in any of these fields, the war, everything else, the geopolitics, but you can tell, or at least that's what I want to believe that everyone else can also understand, is that this president is obviously an asshole and also a corrupt idiot, no less, that he's not fit to be president. He's not. Like, literally. It's all the things of which I just described. That's basically what's happened. And that's actually truth. And again, opinionized truth, but I would like to believe it is. I really would. Because I would not think a man who is this brash and repulsively disrespectful and filled with lies, and from my own understandings, And I don't get these opinions from anyone else, but I truly do believe this administration is obviously off the walls. And I do criticize my own government. I don't really have a side. I prefer to consider myself a centrist, an independent centrist, because I don't trust either side. And I know both sides have sinned to their own accostance. Accostin? I don't know. But basically, yeah. I don't trust either side. Democrat nor Republican. I do judge them accordingly. I understand that humans make mistakes and so on and so forth, and I know that there's no such thing as perfection, but boy oh boy, our democracy, our rules of law are obviously being just thrown in the trash by this administration, and that's not okay. That's one thing's for sure. It's not okay. That's more than just a simple mistake. This is too intentional of multiple mistakes that's already happened too many times in this administration that I believe action is obviously necessary. But I think it only remains within the people's decision and the people's alone. I don't think even politicians can save us from this situation. I think only ourselves, as unified people of great understanding, can only be the people who will do it for ourselves. Because if these people are not going to do it, I suppose we can take into our helm that we do. If it's going to get that bad, if not worse, if this continues. Because I'm disappointed with both sides of the administrations of red and blue and vice versa, and light and dark, however you want to define this. But at the end of the day, not amused. Not amused. But, yeah, I went on for a little bit too longer there than I thought. But like I said, my brain continues on with rabbit hole tangents about my moral principles of understanding and worry, and also disappointment with our government in general. But more importantly, Republicans more than not to say that Democrats are saints either, but one thing's certain, they're the ones who are in power. So, very much their fault, very much criticizing mostly their decisions and their actions for that matter. And the consequences are already dire, and some of the consequences have already been shown that a lot of people are suffering as a result. So, hopefully we learn this time that if we go through another great war again, even though this one might be by choice and not because we were defending ourselves, could be wrong, not a history major on the World War II principle, if it was by choice or by actual threat. Pretty sure it was by actual threat, though. But, yeah, this is just ridiculous. And even if we win this great war again, I guess, quote-unquote World War III, are we just going to end up doing the same thing again? Are we just going to be like, yeah, we finally did it, and then just pretend that our government's fixing itself and everything else and not worry a damn thing like we did how we got to this point after World War II? Thinking that we had it too good and did nothing about it? But who knows? Again, this is just an opinion. I'm not sure that's the actual reality, but it just feels like that to me. It's like, how in the world do we even get this far? Why did we even vote for this president? Because as soon as I saw him and he opened his butt mouth on 2016 election against Hillary Clinton and the debates and etc., and I knew immediately that this country was in trouble. I hate to say that I'm right, but I was right. I've convinced myself fully, and there's no one else in this administration who's going to try and sweet talk me or bully me out of it. This administration is fucked. And they need to get out. They need to get out. They need to be punished severely into many, many, many things. And I think it's so bad that I think even their next of kin should not be allowed anywhere near the stock market for who knows how long. Because it's just that bad. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, and this is not even all of it. Like, this is not even all of it. Like, I literally, there's been, like, so much more shit I didn't have time to get through. Too much shit. But yeah, so y'all have a good one. I will maybe come back during the midterms because I'm sure by then, maybe or maybe not, the world will be on fire by then. And we're talking about the entire world, not just this country, of course. We will see. Anyway, I will continue observing and judging. That's enough rambling. Later.